I'm so excited. Hi folks, it's Jocelyn and I am opening up my vlog for Topple, which is also a sort of like secretly themed vlog. It is not at all an original idea. Plenty of people have done similar things. I've mentioned it a couple times on my channel recently, but I just have been not giving as many 5 stars as I would like to. I don't know if it's just what I'm picking up or just that I'm not as easily impressed as I used to be, but statistically speaking, I have been giving less 5 stars. I want to fix that. So for the 2 weeks of Topple, I will be reading hopefully 3 books that were all some of my favorite booktubers' best books of the year. One of the rules that I decided to give myself was to only pick the top #1 book of someone's list. I at least watched everyone that I'm subscribed to who put out a top 2020 video, but not everyone did, and not everyone ranked them. And then if they did rank them, a significant portion I actually had read in the last year. Thankfully, I was able to get to 3 titles that I have been very interested in from different videos that would actually work for Topple. The first one was Angela from Literature Science Alliance, because I think she put her video out in December. But Angela's top fantasy book of the year was The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. I bought this one on ebook ages ago, so I already had access to it. I believe it is a military standalone fantasy, but I kind of don't want to look up any of these synopses before I go into the books. I think that part of the reason that makes books so perfect for me is if I don't actually know everything about them. So that's kind of my vague impression of this book. Pretty sure it's a standalone though. I know for sure it's adult. I also tend to really enjoy a lot of the same things that Angela does, so I have super high hopes for this one, and I really hope it works out. The second video was from Starla of Starla Reads, and their favorite book of the year was Upon a Burning Throne by Asha K. Banker. This one I remember putting on a list, I think, just before it came out when I first heard of it. This is the start of an adult fantasy series that I believe is based on like the Indian epics. And again, I don't want to know more than that, so I'm not going to re-familiarize myself with what the actual book is about. But Starla has loved this book, and she's another one who very often we enjoy a lot of the same things. I have very high hopes for this, and I know that they have just been gushing about it, so I'm really excited to read it. The final video that worked for this was from Lucy of Lucy Reads, and her favorite book of the year was Raybearer by Jordan E. Fueco. Lucy is one of many people who really loved Raybearer, but that just gets me even more excited, especially because Lucy isn't someone that I tend to look for fantasy recommendations. She generally reads a little bit more contemporary, and so I'm super excited about this one. This is the start of a YA series. The only thing I remember about Raybearer is it is a girl named Terasai, and her mother is called the Lady. But I have no idea what it's going to be. I'm so excited. I love that YA fantasies are usually like really fast paced too, so I'm going to be looking for that here. And I happen to own the audiobook for that one. So what I'm saying is all 3 of these books were readily available. This had absolutely no wait at my library, and I owned the other 2. So I am really pumped for this round of Topple. But I will let you know once March 15th hits and I start to pick up my first book. I haven't decided what that is. We'll see what I'm in the mood for first. Hello friends! We're starting this vlog a little bit later in the day than I had anticipated, but I'm very excited to come at you with my very first read for it, which I've decided is Upon a Burning Throne. So I wasn't sure which of the 3 I was going to be feeling the most, but I have a good feeling about this. At this point, I've only read the prologue, so I want to kind of catch you up with what happened. Like I said, I didn't reread any synopses or anything before going into these books. And this one is already denser than I had initially anticipated. Though I'm not sure why, because it's an epic book. So I started taking notes, which I've been finding very helpful for it. And while there's a nifty Dramatis Personae at the front, I don't particularly find those helpful. One of the things that I really wanted to keep track of were places, because this does seem to be a very large world, and also the people within them. So far, it seems to be setting up mostly the 3 heirs to the burning throne. The prologue starts with a burning, which is how they choose heirs for this empire. And within the prologue, there's questions about legitimacy and who's a bastard, who has any right to the throne, etc., etc. So it starts off with a lot of drama, which I was very much enjoying once I could figure out where everyone's sort of connected and what part of the family they were. I feel like as I go on, the book will be reading faster and faster, but the prologue did actually take quite a while. That said, so far I'm really enjoying this, and I'm interested to see where it goes. What we're not going to talk about is how bad my hair looks today, because there wasn't enough warm water for me to wash my hair properly, and so I put it up so it would be out of my face, but I'm seeing it on camera and it's not the cutest. It is now the next day, and I have gotten partway through, I think, part 2. Yes, part 2. I am on page 127 at the moment, and this is very much a political fantasy. The thing is, political fantasy is something that I generally have a bit of difficulty with. I'm not the most interested on like trying to get like a military force and all of these people like vying for a throne. Which I think the title implies like that's going to happen, so it's kind of a little bit my bad. That said, I do enjoy what's happening right now, and one of the things that's working for me in this particular kind of political fantasy is that it's not like saving the drama for later. There have been so many just like mentions of like scandals that have happened that are really fun, and like people being like, I'm going to tell your secret that you did X, Y, and Z. So it's not that they're keeping the information from the reader. Enjoying that, not enjoying the amount of ableism that I'm seeing so much. 2 of the princes who may or may not take the throne at any point. One is albino and the other one is blind. And they are constantly talking about that and talking about it as this detriment, and they won't be taken seriously, and this is like such a difficult thing to overcome. And maybe this is just like me fully not understanding the context that this is coming from, but neither of those seem like a big deal to me, and definitely not as big of a deal as they're being made in the text. So maybe I'll understand that a little bit better as it goes on, but right now, every time they bring up the fact that one of the princes is blind, I'm just like, but there are so many ways to like cater to that and to work around. Like, he doesn't need sight to function as a human person. I don't understand what like the big deal is. Anyway, I think I want to get in another about 110 pages or so and getting to part 4. I've already done my movement practice. I have to make lunch. I've got to upload a video. So I am actually pretty busy. I don't know when I'll be able to update again next, but I wanted to quickly come in here and let you know what's happening. It's day 3. I didn't get as far last night as I wanted to, or as I was planning to, because this book is a bit slower paced than I was assuming it would be. If I had known that it was slower paced, I might not have picked this one up first, but that's also because I've been having a very hard time for like the last year with slower paced books. I've been really needing like medium and fast paced books to really like keep up my momentum and to like distract me. Something slower like this, I keep putting down after picking it up for like 3 pages. So today, the first thing I want to do is finish part 3. So far, Upon the Burning Throne is very much plot driven. We are following so many different characters, but never for a very long period of time. The chapters are pretty short, which is helpful, but we're not really getting into anyone's head, and there are so many different point of views. We've also heard from 2 different birds in point of view chapters thus far. The prologue was a setup of a certain moment in time, and then part 1 was, I think, maybe 8 years later, and then part 2 was probably, another 10 years later. Part 2 was very war focused, and it did a thing that happens in Dune as well that I didn't particularly love, where we are watching the same scene unfold from different people. Like it's just jumping across and everyone is describing this one moment and this thing happening. So for me, that stalls the action because it doesn't feel as natural as if it's just one person like going through and saying, this happened, right? If you're, for instance, reading Jade City with Fonda Lee, the action is very seamless and very fast. And here, it almost feels like a slow motion sort of thing where you're seeing it from one angle and then it like pauses and then goes to a different angle. So I find that distracting, though I can see that some readers probably don't. That is a non-spoilery note I can give. Otherwise, I'm not able to get very attached to characters, and I'm very much a character-driven reader, so I'm not disliking it, but I'm not loving it either, which is a little sad. Later this morning though, I will be a third of the way through this book, so I am making decent time, and I'm hoping to read the next chunk later today, hopefully. Okay, so my bad, I haven't updated in a couple of days. It is now the 6th day of this vlog and of Tome Topple, and I finished Upon a Burning Throne last night, though I didn't get to update it, so I'm gonna do that now. That's cute, okay. So I didn't check in after the halfway point of reading this, and for that I'm sorry, but it really started to pick up after that. So it was really slow for the first half, but then I feel like I finally got into the groove of it, and the last like 300 pages just flew by. I do overall really enjoy the idea. In part 3, which is where I believe I was starting the last time we talked, I met my favorite character of the whole book, and I was so desperate for more of her. Her name was Carney. I'm not sure if that's fully how you pronounce it, but I loved her. And all of part 3 was her chapter, and it was amazing. I think she's incredible. Then the rest of the book does flip between her and some of the other characters. Like everyone gets integrated throughout the whole story, and it is fully epic in every sense of the word. And also toward the end, I could really see the similarities of the Mahabharata, which I believe was very intentional. For those who are like fully unfamiliar with it, the Aru Shah books by Roshni Chokshi are also dealing with like Mahabharata and retelling it. And personally, I think I like the middle grade version a little bit better. The thing about Upon a Burning Throne is that it is fun, and there's definitely like a lot of drama, but also it feels to me like it's written in a sort of like classical, traditional SFF style, which isn't my necessarily favorite thing. I think I already talked about it, but this does remind me of Dune in a couple of ways, which I absolutely do not mean in a negative way, because if you've been on my channel, you probably already know that Dune is like one of my most hated books. Is written better, for sure, but still does that thing where it doesn't feel like this is modern at all. Like there's no modern sensibilities in the writing. There's a lot of like backstabbing, there's war and vying for a throne, but it is so very deeply rooted in the Indian epics that it's taking from. I'm definitely not a source to talk about that at length, but I was able to, from my limited knowledge of them, make those connections myself. And so I think if you really enjoy political fantasy, if you like things that are slower built but have a really good payoff, and if you enjoy like fully sprawling epics that will take many, many, many pages to get to any sort of conclusion, I think this would work for you. Also, if you're not a character-driven person as much as you are plot-driven, I personally am more character-driven and could have used more time with specific characters and less with others. My biggest complaint overall is just the rampant ableism in here. I mentioned this before, but one of our main characters, Adri, is blind, and you do not forget it throughout the book. Everyone treats this as if it's the worst thing that could have ever happened to their prince, that they don't know how a prince could reign because he's blind. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I was frustrated the entire time reading it. To me, it didn't feel like the text was fully agreeing with those sentiments, but they were such a constant thing that I was pretty annoyed, honestly. That said, it does taper off a bit more in the second half. I think the first half is way worse for it. And once we meet Carney, like, I just love her. I think she is magnificent. So I do want to check in with Starla and see what she says about this.
This book, this thick book, lives rent-free up here. Dramatic writing, kingdoms, epic wars, crazy intense battle scenes, magic and gods and demigods and demons, and all of them walk the same earth as humans do.
Yeah, so talking about it being epic, where gods and demons walk the world, absolutely. I haven't actually touched on that. I do love that this book is so very rooted in mythology that everyday people just sort of have like random encounters with gods, and it's more or less just brushed off, like, oh, of course you did. I think that's really fun, and that specifically reminded me of things like just reading Greek mythology, because that is where I started my mythology journey, right? I think like most people in the West, in the US, and as a white person, Greek mythology was my in for a lot of mythologies, and just the way that people cross paths with gods and demons and just magic sort of happens. It's like naturally. For instance, a non-spoilery kind of thing, but just like there's several pregnancies over the duration of this book. One of them is 2 years long. Other ones are like an hour long, and it's all very fairy tale logic-y, which I very much love.
Each and every single page of this book evoked an emotion in me, and I went through every single emotion reading this book. It has a huge cast of characters that have a long history and very complicated relationships with each other. The vivid writing, the beautiful magic, the anticipation in the plot, the diversity, all of it is perfect. I don't know how else to express that.
So yes, if you like political fantasy, if you like hearing about people who are trying to backstab and people who think they'll be excellent kings and queens, and to get there they'll do anything it takes, like if you enjoy people who feel like it is their right to have this throne and they will take on anyone in their way, absolutely. I think the plot of this really works in that favor. Those just tend not to be my favorite stories, and that was still true here. It still was very interesting to me, and I still had an enjoyable time. I'm not sure if I'll read the second book, because the second book I think is coming out next month in April of this year. And at first I was like, I'm totally fine with just one book. I enjoyed this, but I didn't love it. But then I saw on the synopsis that one of the characters that they shout out here is Carney, and I'm just like, I want more time with her. So I don't know, now I might actually read the second book. Either way, this was an excellent way for me to pick up this book, so thank you, Starla. It wasn't my new favorite the way it was hers, but I still definitely enjoyed my time. I have decided what my next book is going to be, and I have all of today. It is now the weekend to read it, hopefully get enveloped in it, and I will come back at some point, probably later today, to give you an update on how that's going. Okay, I am obsessed with this sort of kaigen. I had to force myself to put this down to make an actual update because I wanted to keep reading. I have other things I need to do though today, like make food, and then I'm gonna be running sprints on the topple account soon. So, where do I start? At the beginning, I guess. I have read 4 chapters. That's all I've read, and I'm already so invested. The 4 chapters are 13%. I'm apparently on page 74, and I love it so much. I don't even know how to talk about it yet. First things first, the writing is really working for me. This is something that I find so important. Even more than characters, I have to enjoy the writing of a thing, because the writing is like the biggest, I think, make or break it for me. It is just descriptive enough, and there's like some sassy moments and some funny moments, and I think just the balance of the whole thing is done really well. I think it incorporates the world building in a super interesting way, and it's just reading like so fast. It is the type of writing that just works for my brain. Even though I'm a pretty quick reader, sometimes I will like stutter over sentences because they just don't, for whatever reason, like my brain can't compute them the same way. This is just like seamless to me. Then there is also the characters on top of that. So we are following Mamoru, who I believe is a 14-year-old. He is a young boy who's going to this academy. He lives in Takayubi, which is part of Kaigen. The sword of Kaigen is referring to the actual like might of this nation. So Mamoru comes from a huge line of warriors, his father, his grandfather, like everyone in his family. His mom is named Misaki, and she is so incredible. I love her wit and her smarts, and she's just like such a strong woman. I'm obsessed. But we're mostly following Mamoru, and it starts with him going to school one day, and there's a new kid at school who's a northerner, so completely like new to this area and is sort of like learning their ways. Already this new kid is disrupting what Mamoru knows as reality, and I love it so much. The kid's just like, ugh, this is propaganda, you know, like this didn't happen the way it did. And Mamoru does not want to believe it. And then he is faced with some tangible proof, and it's blowing his little mind, and he's angry and proud, and I'm just, I'm so excited. Also because the magic in here is so damn cool. I really, really loved Mortal Kombat growing up, and I have been obsessed with the trailer for the new movie as it's coming out. I watched the original movies as well. They are not good, but I still really enjoy them. But Sub-Zero is my dude, and here they have water powers, which mostly is with ice. Also blood because of the water. I love this setup of a character having to dealing with the fact that their government has sort of betrayed them, even though like him and his people are so very like devout and in love with their government and have so much pride in their history and for the way they defended their nation. And this kid's now learning that these things that he had been taught his entire life is incorrect, factually incorrect. People have been rewriting history, and he's going to get pissed. I know it for sure. I feel like his mom is gonna join him somehow in this fighting, and it's going to be so good. I can feel it. Oh my goodness. This is the most excited I've been at the start of a book in a very, very long time. I'm so glad that I'm doing this. So I'm gonna stop here because all of the thoughts in my head are just, oh my god, this is great. And I can't really say anything else until I read further. So that's it for now. I'll update again soon. Okay, listen, this book fucking rocks. I don't know what to tell you. But I am now a third of the way through of Sword of Kaigen. We've gotten a little bit more about Misaki, the mom, and she is just the fucking coolest. There is no way I'm gonna be able to talk about this in a normal way. I'm realizing this, that it's only going to be like gushy feelings because this book is doing all of the things I want books to do. We have two primary point of view characters, which I've already talked about, and I love both of them. I would say if I wanted to be nitpicky, there was a chapter where we were fully in the past with Misaki when she was her son's age, and that was a little bit long, but I don't care. I love her so much. I don't care that it like distracts a little bit from the main plot and the main timeline. Like, no, give me more of it. I want to know everything about these two. I am so excited for where their trajectories are going. There are so many like tiny details and inner workings in here. I love the way that the culture is built and that both Misaki and her son at different points in time have had to question the ideals and the values and the histories that they were told from the start were truth. And I just think it is so well done. I don't have words. So this is just a really quick check-in to say, yeah, still fully obsessed. If this doesn't end up being a 5-star for me, I'm going to honestly be amazed because at this point, I don't know how it couldn't be. It would have to really shit the bed for me to not end up loving this. It's such a strong start. Like, I've just been caught in its web from the very first page. I'm so excited. I'm not going to bother with even more of this. I will come back if I have more things to say at some point, But this is, again, still the weekend. I still have the full day ahead of me, and hopefully that means I'll be able to read quite a bit more, because I want to pick it up. When I'm not reading it, I'm thinking about it, and I'm so energized by that. So I have time, and I want to do it. We just had a really intense fight scene, followed by a very sweet mother and son moment, and I am not okay. This book is so good. I don't know what else I'm going to say about it. Look at these little tears. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll be back soon, I'm sure. Another quick update. Got a little bit further in sort of kaigen, fully cried. Things are heating up, and I bought the paperback for myself. So I already bought the ebook a while ago, which is what I'm reading now. This book is so good. I hardly ever do this. I hardly ever buy something while I'm in the middle of it. The last time this happened to me was reading Jade City. I was halfway through it and Jade War just came out and I was like, gotta have it. So that's how this is going. Again, like, no thoughts, head empty, just really fucking excited and enjoying this book. Don't mind the red nose. I've just been crying. I'm now 53% of the way through sort of kaigen, and I didn't want to make another update because the last probably 100 or so pages, if I had to make a guess, were non-stop action, and just there's this huge battle that take so long, but not in a way that I felt like it was ever distracting and I wanted to get away from it. It was just like relentless, and I don't know what to feel now. I think I need to take a break from the book because my heart is a little bit destroyed. Yeah, that's it, I guess. So I finished the sort of kaigen, like literally 30 seconds ago. This was one of the most fulfilling books I've read in a very long time, and I was just on such a high the entire time I was reading it. This was undoubtedly 5 stars, and my very first 5-star of 2021, which means that this vlog also is doing its job. I just don't know though, because it's 5 stars, if I'll be able to give you a good reason to read it. I always find it a little bit more difficult to talk about things that I love more than things that I like. I can point to things when I like them and give more of a balanced review, but just my initial response to this book is purely emotional, so I don't know how to talk about it in a way that would make sense logically. I will add though that because I was loving this so much, I just couldn't keep it a secret. There were some spoilery things that I didn't want to bring up in the vlog, but that I had to say to someone. So I did message Angela yesterday when I was third of the way through probably, and I've been messaging her for the last day. So it's only day 3 of reading sort of kaigen. It's day 8 of this entire vlog, so I'm making very good progress. Happy about that. But I'm really glad that I had her to just share shouty thoughts with, because this vlog, like, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to be getting any of it, because there's just like the minutia of this book I think is so well done, and it's one of those things where like I loved every element of it, and it feels like something I'll definitely be able to go and reread, especially once I get my paperback, which hopefully will be here soon. I don't know, it was just such a fulfilling and satisfying read. Like the middle bit of it is really heart-wrenching and really heavy and emotional, and then the latter half of the book is rebuilding and grief and healing, and it's just so well done. It reads a little bit closer to like a TV show than it does to what I think of when I think of a big standalone high fantasy. The only comparable standalone high fantasy of its size that I've read is Priory of the Orange Tree, and I think that book's like 800 pages, but that felt like 3 books in one. This one feels like one complete book, one complete thought, but a very large one? I don't know. I don't think I'm making sense, so I think I'm just gonna get off of this for now. Just kidding! In just like my basking in the aftermath of sort of kaigen, I forgot to do the video reaction thing that I was planning to do for Angela's video. So we're going to go to her.
The Sword of Kaigen was a book that was so emotional for me, I had to put it down for a day. Books don't do that to me. I am a heartless person when I read books. I typically only get emotional during musicals, but The Sword of Kaigen, it broke me in a good way. Like, I love a good emotional roller coaster. Like, that's why I'm here for stories. That's why I consume stories, whether that's in musicals or movies or TVs or books. Like, I want to be emotionally invested and have my heartstrings pulled, and Sword of Kaigen did that to the max. I also love that it's a complete story.
Okay, so yeah, the first couple things she says are that it's emotional and it's a complete story, which I think we have gotten from my reactions to it. I fully agree. Very emotional. And a complete story, which I enjoy.
I know that narratively, not everyone loves the structure. Not everyone loves that its peak or climax doesn't happen right at the end. For me, I've kind of gotten burnt out a little bit on climaxes happening right at the end. Like, I used to love that. Like, I mean, I still love a good Sanderlanche, but I don't know, there's something about having a peak happen early and then you get to deal with the repercussions. This is probably just the me getting older thing, but I really liked that in the story.
So I didn't know that people didn't love that the climax happens sort of towards the middle going into the third act. I agree with Angela. I really enjoy how that works. There's something about stories that actually deal with repercussions that I find just inherently interesting. I feel like I've always been a bit of a what if reader. It's why things like superhero stories I find very distracting, because my mind has never been able to get past the thought of like, okay, but you're destroying this entire city, like civilians are dying in the aftermath, like how do they deal with it? I don't care about the superheroes, I care about how the everyday person is dealing with it. So I think that's probably the opposite problem that people are having here. Because the final third of this book is very much just like, okay, all of this destruction and trauma has happened here in this place, and now we all have to sit in it, and we have to be the ones to rebuild, and we have to be the ones to make the next move because no one's going to help us. And I find that extremely interesting. So again, going back to me talking about this being a bit of a TV show, this seems to sort of follow a Steven Universe timeline. Not so much like the story, it doesn't feel anything the same, but Steven Universe, the show, is sort of building up to this giant thing, and then Steven Universe Future comes in and it's just like, okay, but now people have PTSD and now people don't know how to go back to a life because war is all they've known. Like, it's very that. This book has the first 2/3 of people dealing with this immediate thing, and then the last third is like, okay, now that that's over, what does life look like now?
And I haven't told you what the Sword of Kaigen is about, but it's about this place called the Sword of Kaigen, and we follow two characters, Misaki and Mamoru. Mamoru is a 14-year-old boy who's very good at his family's waterbending type skills. They are masters at their craft, and he is very powerful, but he's also really awesome and not very arrogant and really willing to learn and take critique. I love Mamoru. And Misaki is this woman who is basically a noble woman in this circle. She's supposed to raise children, kind of be more docile, but she has a past that's a little more fiery, and we get to learn about that and what skills she has and what she hides from her family. And I love it. I really love that story. The more I think about this story, the more I hear critiques that other people have about that story, the more I'm like, but for me, this is like one of the most perfect books.
Yeah, so she kind of ends the whole thing with giving us a little bit of the setup that I did as well. So yes, Mamoru and Misaki are just wonderful characters. I don't even know how to put anything more into words. I don't have the words, they are failing me. I think this book is just brilliant. So book 2 is done for this vlog, which means I only have one left, and that is going to be Raybearer by Jordan E. Fueco. But you will be hearing from me in about 2 seconds. Happy Tuesday. I've started Raybearer now. I am an hour-ish into the audiobook, and it says I've got another 5 to go, so this will hopefully be another fast book. I also found out that this is read by the same person who reads Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and I loved that audiobook. So I already know that I enjoy this narrator's performance, so that makes me even more excited. But I wanted to just come in here really quickly and give you this setup, because I think where I'm stopping right now, which is about to start chapter 7, is probably the best like non-spoilery setup and probably what is said on the back of the book. I'm pretty sure when I introduced this vlog that I said the only things I remembered about hearing about this is that our main character is named Terasai and her mother is named the Lady. This is true. I have confirmed these things. So the book opens with Terasai being 11, I think, and having an abnormal birth, and grew up also in an atypical way because her mother, the Lady, basically wished her into existence with a djinn. So her wishes from the djinn have passed on to Terasai, and I believe there's one left. So the Lady has sort of been grooming Terasai her entire life for this one purpose, to fulfill this one purpose and this one wish for her. And at the beginning of the book, she is sort of figuring out that that's what her mother has done and that's why she exists. And then she is given her task to go to this imperial palace and to start to vie for the council member positions for the new prince. So in this world, there are at least 12 different empires, and the king who like rules everything has 11 people on his council who have all been with him since childhood, and they all become this like giant unifying reigning force. It looks like there's going to be a lot of sort of competition between the other kids from other realms. I'm very excited about that. One of my favorite tropes of all time is the magical tournament. And this isn't so far looking like it's going to be a straight up tournament. I do really love the competitive aspect and getting to learn about all these different like worlds and all these different magic systems. So the people who are on the council all have what is called a hollow. And in this book, a hollow is an innate magical ability. So everyone has something different. We've met a character who can fly. We've met a character who can like change their appearance. And Terasai's hollow is that she can read memories of people and of things. So if you've read The Diviners, very close to what Evie does. So I think that's a super interesting type of magic. And I'm just interested to see where it goes, but I thought it was best to give an introduction to this before I get too far in. I'm not really sure what else I'm going to be doing with the rest of my day. It's lovely out, so I went to the library to return my books, which is when I started my audiobook. I might try and make up some other reason to go walking out today, just so I can listen to the audio and also enjoy the sunshine for like once. It's been a pretty cold winter and today is so beautiful. You can hear how nice it is. Kids laughing, birds chirping, gorgeous. So yeah, I don't have anything else to say. That is going to be it for now, and I will come back when I have more thoughts on Raybearer. Okay, so it's a little bit later on the second day, I think, that I've been reading Raybearer. I just finished part 3 and I realized that I have not given any sort of updates. It's going very quick. I have had actually quite a lot to do today, so I haven't been reading as much as I wanted to, but I only have an hour and a half left of the audiobook. I really like the path that the plot is taking so far. There have been a couple of reveals and twists just in this last part that are very interesting and I think set us up for a real cool place to end the book. So after part 1 ends, Terasai is in the children's palace with other people of different nations, and they're all sort of like vying to become different council members for the prince. And so we follow that. I believe I said that I didn't think it was going to be like a full-on competition, and it's not. And you sort of understand who is going to be important and who you actually need to remember from this time. It's made fairly obvious who some of the other council members are going to be. Obviously, Terasai also gets picked, right? Like, you know this. You know this going into this book. And throughout, what I'm really enjoying about Terasai is that she has this internal struggle to do what's right and to do what is told of her. So it does seem to be echoing thematically with some of the other books I've been reading in the last couple weeks and for this vlog. She is learning more about her history and having to question how much of what she's been told is a lie, and more things obviously are like, oh wait, they were keeping this from me, someone was lying. And it's like different parties. So I also think that it's interesting that it's not just like, this is bad, this is good. There is a lot of nuance in seeing how someone could want to rebel against said system but still create something that is not equally, but still also bad in its own ways. So I'm really enjoying all of those discussions, and I don't know if I'll be able to say anything else before this book ends, because I'm really trying to keep it vague and make sure that I'm not going to be spoiling anyone for anything. So again, an hour and a half left. I will probably talk to you once this is finished. Okay, it is now the next day. It's Thursday, and I am done with Raybearer. I actually finished it last night, which means that this vlog is finished and I got to read all 3 books that I wanted in 10 days. So I do technically have time to do a 4th one for Tome Topple, but I'm not gonna push myself. I'm just gonna like go with the flow for the rest of the week. But before I wrap this up, I did want to check in about Raybearer because I feel like I gave very little information about this while I was reading it. So I'm going to go to Lucy's video and see if she can like help me fill in some of the gaps that I am inevitably missing.
But when Tarisai turns 11, the lady sends her off to the capital so that she can become one of the Crown Prince's Council of 11. This council are all held together by something known as the Ray, which is a power that the royal family has that is able to connect people in order to protect the royal family. And the people who are connected by the Ray have a bond closer than family, so this is obviously very appealing to Tarisai.
All right, so the first thing she mentions is a power that I completely forgot to talk about. I mentioned that everyone has these hollows, but the Raybearer, the like emperor of this kingdom, has the power of this ray. And as the book progresses, you get to learn more about the ray and why exactly Tarisai's mom sent her there to infiltrate this area.
All of the characters were done so well. You feel for so many of the individual like side characters. There is a romance in here and that's not what you expect, and I just really enjoyed that aspect of the story. It also deals with family and abusive parents in a way that I haven't really seen in a YA book, and I just loved every aspect of the story so much. I don't know how to explain that so well, but yes, it was so good, amazing, fabulous, insert Lady Gaga gif here, and I loved it.
Yeah, so she mentioned something that I've also completely forgotten about, the romance and the characterizations. I think all of the relationships in here are super compelling and very interestingly done. People have their own motivations for things. Everyone is coming with their own baggage into a situation. And the reasons that people are coming into these situations changes from person to person. And you get to see how that all progresses as it goes on. I did love the romance in here. It's not a huge part of the story. So if you are someone who doesn't pick up very much YA fantasy because you're a little bit afraid of all of the romance heavy books, this one is definitely not romance heavy, but the romance that we do get is actually really sweet. And I enjoyed Tarisai's love interest quite a bit. And I was kind of hoping from their first interactions that that's what would happen. And it was. I feel bad though. I just don't have that much to say about this, particularly because I listened to it fully on audiobook. I think if I had maybe done a combination reading and like either gone back and forth between audio and the ebook, or even just like read while I was listening to it, I might have a little bit more, but it was just a very kind of passive experience for me that I enjoyed. So I'm sorry I'm not giving very many specifics, but Lucy is apparently going to be doing a full review on this, so you should definitely check that out when it comes as well. And that wraps up this whole thing. So I think this vlog did what it needed to. I read 3 books as I wanted to, and I got to see what some of my favorite booktubers liked about them and why it was their favorites. I fully understand why some things worked for them that maybe didn't work for me and what they got out of them. And I think you do get an understanding of people by reading books that they love, especially if you can refer back to videos in this way and they pinpoint exactly what it is that they appreciate so much about them. And then the other objective of this vlog, which was to find a new favorite, also happened. I would have loved if all 3 of these books were 5 stars, but just having one honestly is enough for me. I'm so happy I have this Sword of Kaigen, so you'll be seeing that on my shelves now. But yeah, I got 3 high fantasies done in the last week and a half. 2 were starts of a series. 2 of them were political fantasy, which is something I really don't pick up all that often. 1 was a military fantasy standalone, which again is something I don't branch out to as much. So I'm glad that I put myself out there and that I tried some new things and got to learn more about some other readers. I don't know that I have much else to say though, and this is already a pretty long vlog, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But if you enjoyed what you saw, you can like and subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment, leave me an emoji, whatever you would like to share, I would love. And most importantly, please check out these other channels of these other amazing booktubers. All of the video clips that you saw here from their best of videos will be linked down in the description box, and I'll also have them up in the cards for you to check out. That is going to be it for me today, so thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be back with another video shortly. Bye!